what we cover in this program called Managing Customers for Competitive Advantage that we've been running at Imperial College now for a couple of years. And it's a very interesting program for a number of reasons. First, let me just go through a little bit about myself. I've been an assistant professor in marketing at Imperial College Business School now for a few years, and my main research areas are into the role of marketing within organizations. So I'm very interested in strategic issues around customer management. So how do we create customer value? How do we make customers loyal? How do we build relationships with customers? How do we deliver the best customer service quality? And how do all of these activities link to the financial performance of the business? So what is the significance of this marketing investment in terms of ultimately the bottom line? So these are the kind of things that I ask in the work that I do as a researcher. And also I'm interested in decision making in marketing, digital marketing of course, and as you can see you have there some of my recent clients that I've been working with over the last few years. And although all of these clients of course come from a number of different industries and sectors, all different customers and countries, etc., they all share a very important element, and that is they have a market, they have a set of customers, they want to create value for them, and ideally they want to have these customers come back for more. And I help them answering that question. And that very question, I guess, is at the core of what we're doing in this program called Managing Customers for Competitive Advantage. So I don't think anybody will disagree with the fact that a firm is profitable when it identifies, grows and retains its customers. So customers obviously are at the core of everything we do. But unfortunately our research also shows that while companies and managers in general appreciate the importance of their customer base, very few of them are actually capable of leveraging their understanding of the customer base and leveraging the entire marketing toolkit to create superior customer satisfaction and to really create, deliver and communicate value in the long term. In other words, marketing is often limited and restricted to tactical elements. Marketing is often understood as something that marketers do in a department, typically stimulating demand for a product, communicating through advertising, etc. But what we see in our research and our work with managers is the fact that marketing is a lot broader than that, it's a lot bigger than that. And the things that we can do in terms of managing customers strategically can be extremely powerful in determining the competitive advantage of an organization and, of course, by extension, its financial performance. So what we want to do in this program is really looking at what can you do to manage your customer base more effectively and more efficiently. What can you do to make sure that you acquire profitable customers and that you retain these profitable customers, and to make sure that you shape their perceptions but also their behaviors in ways that are supportive of your objectives, organizational objectives. So how do we do this? Well, we'll do this by looking at best practices in customer management. So we look at the companies that excel at creating customer value. The companies out there that somehow they just manage to turn their customers not into just repeat buyers, but enthusiastic loyalists, almost evangelists of the brand. And we look at what are the things that they do right, what are the things that we can learn from them, and what are the things that seem to determine success when it comes to managing customers for competitive advantage. So we're going to look at these best practices, and we're going to link these best practices to research, so scientific research within the world of marketing and strategic management, to look at both enduring ideas, so the kind of ideas that have, if you want, survived the test of time, and they're just as relevant as they were, say, 10 years ago, and how we can leverage these established ideas. But in particular, and this is where really our work at Imperial College comes in, is what are the novel ideas, what are the innovative approaches. So ultimately this program is really about how do we manage customers, how do we attract them, how do we retain them, how do we make sure that we build a customer base that is profitable, and how do we do so in the most innovative ways, in the ways that can create enduring value and can put us ahead of the curve. So these are really the key elements of the program. Now, in terms of objectives, the first thing that we do when we start this program is really try to understand what is really marketing, and what do we understand marketing to contribute to the success of a business. And this really involves elevating marketing from something functional in other words, a department or a set of activities that marketing people do, to something more strategic, but also almost cultural, the idea of being customer focused or being market oriented. What does it mean for an organization, and why is it so important that we become customer centric? So we introduced this idea that ultimately marketing is about customer centrism, and everything that you do to create customer value is part of that process. So sometimes even people who are not necessarily marketers are responsible for marketing activities. They're responsible for customer value creation. So by extension, what this means is that the whole organization needs to embrace this customer focus. And we look at ways of implementing it, because one thing is to talk about customer focus and customer centrism. All of these are beautiful theoretical ideas. Oh yes, we understand that we need to be customer centric, we need to focus on our customers. But ultimately the key question is, what does it mean for you on your daily in your daily work? So what are the kind of activities that you can rely on to foster this market orientation to become customer centric? So we start with the concept, with the theory, but then we look at how do we make it happen? And what you will get in this program is a lot of very important, very timely, very actionable advice in terms of the things that you can do, the simple things that you can change, the simple ideas that you can introduce into your daily routine that make your company more customer focused. Now, customer centrism is one thing. The next thing is really about turning this customer focus into customer loyalty, into retention. So we're going to talk a little bit about the business case for customer retention. So why should you invest in retaining more customers? It's very important to understand exactly what the profitability outcomes, the performance outcomes of these are. So we're going to spend some time looking at that and looking at what kind of investment in customer retention leads to what kind of outcomes. And we're going to focus very clearly on the kind of benefits that you can expect from different customer-focused activities and different strategies to retain customers. Now, the question that becomes, okay, we understand that the loyalty is important, we can understand the benefits of loyalty, we can see the links between, let's say, marketing activities and financial outcomes. The question is, how do we make it happen? So we look at very specific strategies, very specific tactics to turn a customer into a loyal customer, to increase the percentage of customers within your business that are return customers, but also not just that, because one thing is to increase retention. The other thing is also how to make sure that the customers that you do retain also become more profitable over time. So then customer management becomes a question of, if you want, reshuffling your customer base, so making sure that you have more loyal customers that are also more profitable, but also changing the behavior perhaps of those customers that are not yet very profitable, but they can be retained and turned into very profitable customers. So these are ultimately some of the key questions that we deal with. And we do this by looking at best practices in strategic customer management, as I mentioned before, and we're going to look at both those fundamental and those novel ideas as suggested earlier. Now, who is this program for? This is really designed to be for anyone who has an interest in better understanding customer behavior, how you can make a customer more loyal, the kind of activities that you can develop and implement within your organization to attract very profitable customers, to retain them, and to make them even more profitable. So basically anybody who has an ability to initiate some change in terms of how you create value for your customers within your firm. But also it could be suitable to any executives or entrepreneurs that just want to refreshen their ideas, so become more familiar with the entire strategic customer management toolkit, and perhaps just want to hear some thoughts, some new ideas, some best practices. What are some leading organizations doing there? We find that attendance to this program in the past have really welcomed the set of fresh ideas and innovation, the things that really got them thinking about perhaps things that got entrenched within their business, this old way of doing things, that it's always been this way, that kind of philosophy, and trying to change and bring in a little bit more dynamism, more novelty, more innovation in terms of how the organization creates value for its customers. So this is really the target audience for this program. And what I would like to share with you just very quickly is the outline of the kind of things that we're going to look at in the program. As you know, the program is divided into 2 days, and we have faculty from Imperial College Business School addressing you on both days. So we're going to start with these core ideas of high-performance customer management. We're going to look at what makes a company good in managing its customers. What are these traits, what are these characteristics of a company that is very good at doing that? And this introduces this idea of becoming market-oriented. And again, as I said earlier, we're not just talking about these things theoretically or conceptually, but we're looking at how do we actually implement it. So what does it mean to be customer-centric, and what can you do to make sure that the whole organization becomes customer-centric? So how do you implement the idea? We're going to introduce this idea of value-driven marketing. Ultimately, the objective of your organization might be financial value creation, but that objective cannot be achieved without customer value creation. The companies that create financial value without creating customer value don't last. So we're going to look at what are the tricks, what are the things that companies do to create customer value that is linked positively to financial value. And we're going to introduce this idea of the economics of customer acquisition and retention, and really looking at, again, how do we create ultimately something that customers want. Now, one of the big mistakes that a lot of organizations do, for example, in designing their customer strategies, is to think that they have to be the best at everything they do. You have to provide the best product, the best service, the best experience, the best access to your product, the best price. What happens when you do this is that you can become commoditized, you create little differentiation, but also resources are wasted, money is left on the table when you almost over-deliver relative to expectations of customers. So we're going to look at ways in which we can develop a strategy that is relevant to customers' needs. So how do you find out customers' insights that are crucial to your strategy? How do you get those customer insights in? And then how do you develop a proposition that creates very relevant value? You give customers exactly what they want, and you maximize the price that they're willing to pay for it. So these are some of the tricks that we're going to look at in this program in terms of how do we maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of a customer strategy. We're going to look at some very interesting tools, by the way, in which you can brainstorm ideas like the strategy curve, the customer relevancy model. We're going to look at all these really practical tools that you and your team can look at and really start to tease out a more effective strategy for your business that creates customer value. The afternoon of day one is devoted to looking at some drivers of customer satisfaction. And mind you, I should probably say that customer satisfaction is one of those probably most mismanaged ideas in marketing. We always think that increasing customer satisfaction creates an engaged customer base and creates loyalty. I will show you research that shows that that is not sufficient. A customer who is satisfied is not necessarily a repeat customer. So often we put attention and we devote attention to issues that are not as important or as relevant. Customer satisfaction alone is not enough to make sure that your customers are profitable and they're loyal. So we're going to look at what else is needed. What else do you need to add to your ability to create satisfaction in order to make sure that you turn a satisfied customer also into a loyal customer. We're going to look at some customer metrics, some interesting ways of assessing your performance in your customer strategy, things like the Net Promoter Score, for example, things like metrics of word of mouth, customer participation, engagement. And some of these, by the way, are tools that lend themselves very well to a digital world. So we're also going to make it very relevant to the kind of things that you can do online. So we're going to look at all these things, and we're going to try and really understand what ultimately are the kind of things that you can implement immediately within your business to increase the success of your customer-facing strategies. In day two, we'll be looking at implementing all of these things. We'll be looking in particular at customer behavior and customer psychology. So understanding the way in which customers think in order to create strategies that are relevant. Ultimately, the objective of any marketing strategy, the reason why you invest money in marketing is probably because you want to shape both the cognitive and behavioral aspect of your customers. In other words, you want your customers to think in a certain way about you and your products, and you want them to act in a certain way. For example, by buying your product, recommending your product, becoming more loyal, etc. This in turn obviously translates into market performance, in terms of sales, market share, etc. And ultimately, it also translates into financial performance and shareholder value creation. So we're going to look at how do we make this process happen, how do we start from the marketing investment, and how do we end up in shareholder value creation, because that's often not very obvious. So we're going to look at that and how do we design a strategy that maximizes the extent to which all of those steps are going to happen. This obviously also involves communicating with customers in a certain way. So while on day one we are mostly looking at strategic ideas, very business strategy thinking, things that are very macro, very high level if you want. And day two, we get more into the tactical elements and say, how do we make all of these strategies actually happen? How do we focus on the actual implementation? So we're going to look at marketing comms, customer management, we're going to look at innovation in product and service design, etc. I think this is a very thorough, very broad, but at the same time quite deep program into all the things that we see as crucial in managing customers. We take pride in the fact that we spent a lot of time and effort designing something that we think does two things. It incorporates some of the latest thinking in terms of research that we do at Imperial College Business School and in other leading business schools around the world, but also managerially relevant. So we're not going to spend time talking just about theories and ideas that are conceptual, etc., but we're really going to ask, what does it mean for you? For example, we're going to apply this view that marketing can be seen as something cultural. So how do you become a market-oriented organization? How can you develop this market focus? How can you actually create a culture within your firm where everybody embraces the idea that everything you do is designed to create customer value so that ultimately you create financial value? We're going to look at marketing as a strategic force. One of the biggest frustrations within organizations nowadays is the idea that marketing should be relegated to something tactical. The 4 Ps, managing your pricing or your communications. Marketing is something that should provide direction to your business strategy, because ultimately it's the customer that provides direction to your business strategy, and therefore marketing acts as the advocate to your customers. So we're going to look at how marketing can help you to generate customer insights, to disseminate them within the organization, to respond to them with products and services that ultimately create customer value, and that is marketing at a strategic level. We're going to talk by extension about issues to do with segmentation, with positioning and things like that of course remain very relevant. But marketing should also be elevated to something that is relational, not just transactional. The idea that marketing ends with the sale, it's a very old-fashioned idea. Nowadays we see a lot of potential in actually building relationships, so moving from transactions to relationship, because as we mentioned earlier, there is a lot of value, a lot of financial value in doing so. And of course, marketing is also tactics. So you do still want to use the marketing toolkit to manage your day-to-day ways of increasing and creating value for customers, and we're going to talk about that as well. So why is this program unique? Why this program and not something else? Well, firstly, because it is based on the skills, the assets, the research, the competencies of Imperial College Business School and its faculty and everything that we've been doing in the business school the last few years. So you'll be working with scholars that research this area and publish in the leading publications worldwide and advise to many companies worldwide. So you'll have access to those resources, and also, as I mentioned before, you will have access to something that I think is quite unique about our program, and that is this mixing of something that is rigorously scientific. So the things that you'll be hearing from us are not just the single case study of the story from the one manager who somehow struck gold with a great idea and somehow it worked for that person, but you're going to hear about tried and tested ideas that have been researched and that have a lot of solid theory and research behind it. So these are the kind of solid ideas that we go for. We don't go for the sample as one kind of ideas. But at the same time, it's not enough, we think, to have something that is research driven. We also want it to be managerially relevant, and that, I think, is what you get from this program. It's something that is also relevant to people who practice these things. We are very proud of the fact that the work that we do actually affects the practice of marketing, and the kind of things that you'll be exposed to in this program are things that we hope you'll find managerially relevant. To this end, we pay a lot of attention during the program to making sure that you figure out what do these ideas actually mean for you. So the way we teach the program is not just through lectures, but it's through workshops, applied exercises, group work, case study discussions. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to really think about what does it ultimately mean for me, to bridge that gap between the idea and your own context and organization. So you'll be getting a lot of help from faculty and other delegates to really understand how to make this all relevant. And I think this is something that is quite unique to the way in which we work. It's very practical. Of course, we also focus on both the big and the small, and by that I mean that this is relevant to both large organizations, whether you work within an established company that is large, or whether perhaps you work in a startup or in an early stage company, and whether you're an old or a new organization. So these are things that are relevant regardless of that context. I mentioned the workshops and the opportunities, and I think it's something that is very important to us. It is something that contributes to the practical approach that we adopt. I thought that I would share with you some feedback from the last group that took this program. So we ran the program again a few months ago, and I've shared with you the unedited, uncurated feedback that was collected from participants that attended the last program. As you can see, they found the program to have very solid content, but also the way in which it was delivered, they found it quite enjoyable. So it's a stress-free environment, it's a relaxed environment. It's designed to get us, to get you to think about new ideas, and it's really designed to energize you and to really think about ways in which you can improve the way in which you manage your customer base. So I'll let you have a look through these comments, because I think they tell their own story and they give you a bit of an insight from people who have attended the program before about how it was received. Of course, we also have some testimonials on the website that you can have a look at, some comments from previous participants that tell you a little bit more about how they found the program. But we're very proud of the fact that this program has been very successful in really meeting the needs of our participants who come, wanted to be exposed to some very interesting, novel, important, timely and innovative ideas in terms of how to achieve competitive advantage by managing your customers strategically. So thank you very much for joining me for this quick but I hope useful journey into this two-day program. If you have any questions, I'm here now, of course, to take any questions you might have. This is my email address. You can contact me directly, but of course you can also contact the Executive Education team at Imperial College Business School. We really hope to see many of you joining us for the next group, and I wish you all the best, and thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining us today.